Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown from the Caregiving Years Training Academy, and this is our soul break. And today we're going to take a soul break from pressure. So here we go. So we follow a format with our soul breaks, and I'm going to follow it today. We start off by really feeling through what does something feel like today? And so today we're talking about pressure. So what's your pressure? You might feel the pressure to make a decision or to complete a task or to get through a day or to manage a difficult relationship or to overcome a tough challenge. You feel the pressure today. So what's that pressure? And I find it helpful to just name what it is. So have some paper and pen handy and then just write out, what's your pressure today? I think it's also helpful to acknowledge that the pressure today will feel different tomorrow. So no matter how many times you do this exercise, it might look different, and that's okay. I think with our soul breaks, we're really looking through a process around what can help us feel better based on a certain circumstance, a certain emotion, a certain challenge, a certain relationship. And we feel that pressure in all of those things. So what's your pressure? Honestly, sometimes I feel the pressure to look okay, right? I feel like, oh God, people just want me to be happy, to be okay. And I feel that pressure. And that's a lot because oftentimes we're not feeling okay. We're not happy. We're in a tough time. So once we name what it feels like in our reality, I like to think about what would be the opposite of that feeling. And I think the opposite of pressure is relief. So how can you give yourself relief? What does that look like? When could that happen? How could that feel? And so we're going to go through 3 questions today that I hope help you connect to relief. Here we go. Okay, so our first question is, what's reasonable for you in this moment, in this day, in this week, in a situation, in an experience, in a relationship? What's reasonable? I often think we put ourselves in a place of pressure to meet unrealistic and unreasonable expectations. So let's do the opposite and set the reasonable expectation. And I picked this image because it took me a minute to figure out what was going on. I like the lightness of it. I like that there's a little pop of color. And then I realized what we're looking at are empty bottles, and some have flowers and some don't. So I think if we were to give ourselves 6 bottles that we could fill, what would be the names of the bottles? And so the names could be a person, a situation, a task, and then how reasonable is it to complete that? So which bottles stay empty for right now and which ones do we fill? So you could take a moment and write out 6 different situations or relationships or tasks, and then decide which ones will you fill today. You could also think about the 6 bottles and actually reserve one for you. So 5 bottles might have a name of a relationship, a person, a task, and then the 6th bottle is your name. And if we were to think about filling the bottles in order, let's fill your bottle first. What would you like to put in the bottle? And it could be a 10-minute break. It could be a longer lunch. It could be an earlier bedtime. It could be time away from communication, your phone, social media, talking, whatever feels like relief. Name one of the bottles after you, and then fill it with what relieves you. And then the other bottles, you decide which ones you want to fill and which ones can wait. So go ahead, take a moment and write out your name, 5 additional names of a person, relationship, or situation. And then when it's your name, write how you will fill your bottle so you feel relieved. And then decide which other bottles you'll fill and which can wait. Okay, so let's go to the next question. What's healing for you? And so for this photo, it's a smoothie with some fruit and nature on a plate. So what's healing for you? Time in nature, time with a certain type of food, time with your journal, time with your pet, time with a friend. What's one thing that will feel healing for you? Write it down, and that's something else you can do today. What feels healing for you? I've been thinking about oftentimes how people will say to us during a caregiving experience, you have to take time every day to take care of yourself. You have to have a daily routine about exercise, daily routine about what you eat and making sure it's healthy. And I think that's good. And I also think sometimes it's not reasonable given what's happening in the day. So for instance, today is Thursday. My dad fell Sunday night, fractured his pelvis, and things are going downhill for him. So I stayed up in the emergency with him all night until we were able to settle him into a room in the hospital. I do like to swim and I like to walk. It has been unreasonable for me to expect that I'll get to the pool right now. And I look at the walks in the hospital hallway as my exercise. That feels reasonable for me. Then I was thinking about, well, what's my daily habit? And the daily habit that feels healing for me for whatever reason is to play Wordle in the morning. So Wordle is a word game. And then I started playing a new game, which is Phrase by Forbes. And so I'll put the link to both those games in our show notes. And that feels healing for me to do those 2 games in the morning on my iPad before I get out of bed. So you might have something that you reach out to that feels good. It just never occurred to you that it helps you heal. So think outside the box about what helps you heal. So our first question was, what's reasonable? And we're going to think about 6 bottles, one that's ours, and then fill our bottle first with what gives us relief, and then think about the other bottles and which can we fill and which can wait. And then we asked our second question, what's healing for you? And then here's our third question, what's possible? I think when we're feeling a lot of pressure, we feel enclosed. We feel like it's hard to catch our breath. It can feel like the stress of the pressure makes it hard for us to move forward. So when we feel that pressure, we can ask, what's possible? And I like this image because of tending a garden and harvesting the garden to enjoy it. Throughout our days, we have been putting seeds down. It may not seem like it. You may not have seen the growth, but you've been laying seeds. And the seeds become what's possible. So it could be one thing feels possible to you today. It feels possible to reach out to a friend for support. It feels possible to start taking some photos of the day so you capture moments today. It might feel possible to consider plan B because you feel like, I think plan A is worn out. What's possible with plan B? What's possible if you were to spend a little time in nature? What's possible if you were to spend some time with art, whether it be a book or an image like these that I'm showing you today, or a painting or a drawing? What's possible? And then I like to ask myself, what's possible for my future? Sometimes the pressure seems to also take away a view of our future. And there's possibilities in your future. Why not name it? What would you love to have in your future? And the future could be this afternoon, tomorrow, 5 years. What would you love to receive in your future? That's what's possible. Name it, write it down. Okay, so we went through 3 questions. What's reasonable, what's healing, and what's possible? 3 questions to really help us find relief. And if we write belief statements, it's almost like we write a commitment to relief. I believe relief is possible at any moment within the day. I believe relief comes from taking a few quiet moments. I believe relief comes from playing Wordle. I believe relief comes from sitting in my backyard. I believe relief comes from saying a worry out loud to a supportive friend. So write a belief statement about relief that reminds you relief is possible. Our belief wheel can also help us think through what's possible around relief as it relates to these 8 categories. How do you get relief from work? How do you get relief with play? How do you get relief from family? Sometimes we need relief from family. And then how do you get relief within family? How do you get relief when the holidays are coming? How do you get relief from dreaming about your future? How do you get relief from tapping into your courage? How does good health relieve a worry for you? And then how can values remind you relief is possible? So a value might be, I'm a good family caregiver. I'm not the only one. And so knowing that gives me relief that I can rely on others in my life to help, support, provide. So what's a value you hold that can bring you relief? So the wheel is to help us think through what else we can believe about relief. I've helped you start to create really 8 statements, and you can continue to work on this after our soul break. I wanted to get you started. And you have access to our PowerPoint and these slides, including the images, in the show notes. Okay, so we're going to close. And how much relief does this image provide for us? Look at how spectacular it is. I mean, honest to goodness, I feel like I'm in that image, which is why I sat up taller in my seat, because I feel like I could walk right into that, right? So that image of the beautiful water, which is still and yet moving, you can see some ripples, the beautiful plants, and then those beautiful structures that provide relief from the sun. So we can be on the sand in the sun and then walk into the shade. And there's so much peace in this photo. Notice there's no one else in the photo. We can just put ourselves in the image. So there's a sense of solitude, of peace, of relief, of a break. When the pressure feels too much and you need some relief, you could look at this image. And then imagine what you might hear if you're standing on that pier. Imagine what else you might see if you look to the left and then look to the right. Imagine how that sand feels. Imagine how the water feels. I bet it feels like bath water, right? So warm. Imagine what it must feel like to walk down that pier and be in one of those little huts and rest. Imagine what it would look like when you get all the way to the other side of that pier and you look into the horizon and you just see blue sky, blue water. Imagine how that must feel. And then imagine if you're in one of those huts, there's a comfy couch, a cold drink, soft music, and your favorite piece of entertainment, like a movie or a book, something you can enjoy. Again, when you need relief from pressure, you can look at this image and imagine yourself walking down that pier, heading to your hut. It's yours. And then enjoying what's inside that hut. And you get to decide what's in there. And then with eyes closed, you can take a moment in your hut and feel relief. You deserve to feel that relief. You work hard. You do so much. The intensity of the day is hard. You deserve relief. Okay, that's our soul break from pressure. We meet for a soul break on the third Thursday at every month at noon Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. If you'd like, you're welcome to join me for a live soul break. And you can join me by registering via our Eventbrite page or through caringourway.com, which is our community. Again, we meet for a live soul break on the third Thursday of every month at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and you're welcome to join me if you'd like to be with me live. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.